Hello and welcome to Outside Views. Today we're delving into one of the most significant aspects of post-Brexit Britain, the free trade agreements the UK has signed since leaving the European Union. When the UK officially left the EU on January 31st in 2020, it undertook the monumental task of establishing its own independent trade policy. This meant negotiating new agreements and rolling over many of the deals the EU had secured on behalf of its member states. But how do these agreements stack up against the benefits the UK enjoyed as part of the EU? And what are the real economic implications of this new era of British trade policy? Yeah, let's find out. First, let's understand the framework of these trade agreements. Broadly, the UK's free trade agreements fall into two categories: continuity agreements and new agreements. Continuity agreements, also called rollover agreements, replicate the terms of EU deals to ensure minimal disruption to trade relationships. They were necessary to prevent immediate economic damage, but often fall short of the benefits the UK had as a part of a larger bloc. New agreements, on the other hand, are those negotiated entirely from scratch or significantly changed after Brexit. They are often touted as evidence of the UK's ability to strike out on its own, but they come with their own set of challenges and limitations. As of May 2023, for example, the UK had secured 38 active trade agreements covering over 100 countries and territories. This sounds impressive, but the details reveal a more complex picture. Let's begin with the UK-Australia Free Trade Agreement, one of the so-called flagship new agreements. Signed in December 2021 and implemented in May 23, this deal eliminates tariffs on nearly all goods traded between the two countries. It also eases restrictions on professionals moving between the UK and Australia, and it includes commitments to sustainability and digital trade. However, the downsides have been significant. British farmers have been vocal in their criticism as the agreement opens the UK market to cheaper Australian agricultural products. Australia's farming sector operates on a larger scale with fewer regulations around environmental and animal welfare standards. And this creates a competitive disadvantage for UK farmers who face higher production costs due to stricter rules. And moreover, the government's own projections estimate that the deal will boost UK GDP by just 0.08% over 15 years. That's a negligible impact considering the effort and political capital spent on it. For many, this deal underscores the limited economic power the UK wields compared to its position as part of the European Union. The UK-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement, signed in February 2022, follows a similar pattern. It eliminates tariffs and includes provisions for digital trade, environmental cooperation, and even gender equality in economic participation. But once again, British farmers bear the brunt. The deal allows New Zealand's agricultural products, particularly meat and dairy, to flood the UK market. For New Zealand, the benefits are clear: greater access to a wealthy market without significant concessions. For the UK, however, the economic benefits are even smaller than those from the Australia deal. Critics argue that these agreements prioritize political optics over economic substance, as the actual trade volumes between the UK and these countries remain relatively low. The UK-Japan Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, often celebrated as the UK's first major post-Brexit deal, is another mixed bag. Signed in October 2020 and effective from January 21, it builds on the existing EU-Japan agreement. The UK secured additional provisions on digital trade and intellectual property, tailoring the agreement to its specific needs. But here's the catch. As part of the EU, the UK had access to a larger, more influential trade bloc, which negotiated more favorable terms with Japan. Now acting alone, the UK lacks the same negotiating power, leading to a deal that is, in some areas, less comprehensive than the EU agreement. For instance, British financial services, the crown jewel of the UK economy, gained little beyond what was already available under the EU deal. And this agreement, while symbolically important, underscores the limitations of going it alone. And next, let's discuss the continuity agreements, which replicate the terms of EU trade deals. These agreements include key partners like Canada, South Korea, Singapore, and Vietnam. The UK-Canada Trade Continuity Agreement, effective from April 2021, mirrors the EU-Canada Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, or CETA. While this ensures stability in trade relations, it does little to enhance them. Negotiations for a deeper deal were suspended in January 2024, leaving the UK in a holding pattern, while Canada focuses on larger trading partners like the US and the EU. The UK-South Korea Free Trade Agreement, effective from January 2021, also replicates the EU's deal, maintaining tariff-free trade on many goods and services. But as a smaller standalone market, the UK has lost the seamless regulatory alignment it had as part of the EU, making trade more cumbersome for businesses. Similarly, the UK-Singapore and UK-Vietnam agreements replicate EU deals, but don't go beyond what was already in place. And these agreements highlight the reality that continuity deals are a stopgap, preserving pre-existing trade relationships without offering new economic opportunities. And one of the most ambitious moves post-Brexit has been the UK's accession to the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP. This multilateral agreement spans 11 countries across the Asia-Pacific region, including major economies like Japan, Canada, and Australia. The UK signed the agreement in July 2023 and is expected to join by December 2024 fully. On paper, this deal gives the UK access to a massive market of over 500 million people, but the economic benefits are limited. Government projections estimate a GDP boost of just 0.08%, similar to the Australia deal. Moreover, the UK's geographical distance from the bloc's core markets means higher transportation costs, reducing the competitiveness of British goods. Critics argue that the CPTPP is more about political symbolism, showing the UK's pivot away from Europe, than delivering any tangible economic gains. And finally, let's address the elephant in the room, the EU. The UK's trade with the EU was worth £668 billion in 2022, far exceeding its trade with any other country or bloc. And despite all 38 active agreements, the UK cannot replicate the scale or depth of economic integration it has as part of the EU single market and the customs union. The continuity agreements merely preserve what was already there, while new agreements often come with compromises that diminish their overall benefit. Brexit promised a global Britain, but the reality is that trade deals negotiated as a single nation often lack the clout and economic impact of those negotiated as part of a larger bloc. In conclusion, while the UK has made progress in securing trade agreements post-Brexit, these deals often fall short of the benefits the country enjoyed as part of the EU. Continuity agreements maintain stability, but highlight the limitations of leaving the EU. New agreements, while politically significant, deliver, if I'm nice, say modest economic gains at best, and often come with significant downsides. Brexit's promise of greater economic independence has come at a cost, leaving the UK navigating a more challenging and less lucrative global trade environment. So thank you for watching Outside Views again. Stay tuned for more insights into the complexities of global politics for Britain and British trade. And if you want to see another video now, the next one is right here in the end screen.